Good morning and welcome to the new episode of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. The changed geophysical and geopolitical situation, physical because of the war and some areas being annexed by Russia, and geopolitical as it is changing rapidly. But I find that our foreign policy, though dynamic, does not change according to the changed geopolitical situation, especially in Eurasia. And India has been long associated with Eurasia, with all the stars, earlier as a part of USSR, later on with the help of Russia. But Russia's influence is declining. Some of the former Russian settled countries are now members of NATO. So India has to alter its dynamics for this region. And the recent muddling through by Russia through the Ukraine invasion, the implications that Russia might be weakened there are coming to the forefront. It may not be, but the perception is there that Russia is no longer as strong as it once was, and is no longer a global power. And the rise of China, especially with its one role, is penetrating Eurasia, and with the traditional sphere of influence of Russia now under growing contestation, it's time to find new ways to scale India's interest in Eurasia. And let's not forget, India's Eurasian relationship is not new one. In the Cold War era, before Gorbachev especially, India has privileged access to the Central Asian republics due to the close ties with the Soviet Union, as I said. After the collapse of Soviet Union, India could have done much more due to the absence of geographical access. But there was a limited trade and investment ties. And then India's economic position wasn't bad, that it should expand its trade and commercial interests there. So, India's silence in the region was as undeveloped as India was undeveloped economically. Now, this is a curious but realistic situation. When you yourself are not fully independent economically, you cannot be in the position of exerting influence. Moral influence, yes, but the moral influence by itself is valuable in a geopolitical situation where everything is honky donk, where things are unstable. It's the force and the money that matters. So, since the collapse of Soviet Union, India has largely relied on Russia again, to buttress its role in the region. You know, we were like a bird, small bird, perched on the back of a big bird, and then looking at that place. No direct contact, and whatever direct contacts were there were through Russia. So majority of the countries deemed us to be a part of the Russian tutelage, especially in that region. I remember when I went to Uzbekistan and I was sitting with the governor of Surkhandaria, the region where India, Iran and Uzbekistan meet. He said, well, has the Indian government got permission from Russia? I said, what do you mean by permission? We have come to offer you help, and we established a big hospital there at that time. That was the only thing India could do, and that too at my insistence with the Prime Minister. So, India was perceived as being on the beck and call of Russia. And result was that Russia, Central Asia, and Iran were collaborating in geostrategic and geoeconomic interests in the second half of the 1990s. So it was a sort of a collaborative effort. India had good relations with Russia, good relations with Iran. So they were together a trinity impacting Central Asia. Now Ukraine was set in and there were three negative trends for Russia. The first was Russian invasion of Ukraine has been condemned roundly by the West and they had to do it. But it had one negative impact that the other neighbors of Ukraine are worried. If Russia can claim Ukraine has no right to exist independently and it is invaded, it can do the same to the other republics that were once a part of the Soviet Union. So all these Kyrgyzstan, Turkestan, Turkmenia, whatever they might say, are in fact afraid. And they are thinking that if Ukraine can be invaded, there is a guarantee. Second, Russia's invasion of Ukraine has weakened Russia, resulting in breaking out of conflicts within its Eurasian sphere of influence. You remember when I was talking to you about SCO meeting, there was a hot war going on between two republics. And only during the pendency of that summit, the war stopped. The war was between the two founding members of Shanghai Cooperation Organization, Tajikistan and Kyrgyzstan. And they were on the brink of a real horrible war over their disputed border. So what does that show? That shows that there has been a decline in the Russian capacity to control and to mediate in such conflicts. Earlier, it was the deciding factor, not any longer. Then, this can also be seen in the war between Azerbaijan and Armenia, the two dialogue partners of SCO. Even though Armenia is one of the richest and the closest ally of Russia, it is unable to counter the offensive of Azerbaijan and Turkey against Armenia. Now Turkey is a stronger power. Now the thing has again changed because Turkey is a member of SCO. And the third, China's growing impact in the region with rapidly rising, and the new millennia is rightly deemed to be China's millennia. And China's rise has given birth to many regional equations. It has not only become a leading economic partner, but its impact politically is a lot. And then security-wise, it's one of the best armed countries in the world today. So its security ties with Russia and also is the deepening relationship and the sharpening conflict with Russia and the West, especially the invasion of Ukraine, is solidifying China's hold. And these Central Asian republics now look towards China. So, China is no friend of India, and if India wants to penetrate Eurasia, then China's opposition would be a big bloc. Now, what India has to consider that if India goes, what's going to be the impact of these changes on India? For India, the ideal situation is the one in which Russia is at peace with the West and managing the turbulence in inner Asia and Eurasia, and that would keep China also in check. That's an ideal position. But in the real political world, ideal never is there. Because this peace would facilitate India's engagement with the region. Secondly, with Ukraine's invasion, the new reality is very different. Russia now is not at war with Ukraine. Let's be very clear. It's at war, unwinnable war with the West. And it's increasingly beholden to China for support. China, in fact, the younger brother is becoming the big brother. And it is struggling to maintain its traditional primacy in Inner Asia and Eurasia. So Russia has a twofold interest. One, to present a strong front to West with the help of China. Second is to retain its impact and influence in Inner Asia and Eurasia. Therefore, the constraint for India. India cannot play a consequential role by depending too much on Russia. So what it has to do? It has to develop an autonomous role in the region by itself. It's an economic power now. And as an economic power, it can penetrate that region disregarding China and Russia, of course, without being offensive to them. Now, what should be the changed approach of India in Eurasia? This I had discussion 3 days back with senior officials of India and some of USA. I also talked to some Russian experts. And we agree that India, which has signaled its desire to develop an autonomous role, has capability to do that. In January 2021, India invited the 5 Central Asian leaders to participate as special guests in the Republic Day celebration. It was not able to materialize, they said, but it was a great act on part of Modi, a political action that sent message to Russia, to China and to the world, well, look here, we are here. And to Central Asian people, you are our guests. And then they see the might and the power of India. That was the purpose. Then in November 21, National Security Advisor Ajit Doval convened a meeting of the counterparts from Central Asia to discuss the Afghanistan situation. Now, discussing Afghanistan situation meant that India was playing a major role. And that struck a chord of interest. Now, what should India do now after these 2 actions? For a long time, India has looked at Iran to gain geographical access to Inner Asia. Now what it should do is tie up with friends like UAE and Saudi Arabia to pursue large-scale regional projects in Eurasia. Instead of Iran, it should tie up and promote. It is having a very good relation both with UAE and Saudi Arabia. So it should go ahead. Those countries would be interested, and those countries being Muslim countries, and the leaders would give India a certain heft. Secondly, India also needs to renew its engagement with Turkey. Now, Turkey is emerging as a major player, an important force in Central Asia. And if India can have good relationship with Turkey, which it doesn't have, it is not having very good relations, so it should renew its engagement with Turkey. Secondly, India has good relations with the European Union. So European Union can be an important partner for India in this region because it's stepping up its engagement with the region through the Eastern Initiative. So the Eastern Initiative by itself, European Union might fail. So this is a mutual interest. And India should exploit this relationship with European Union. So it's a 3-pronged attack. Regenerative and economic projects with the help of Saudi Arabia and UAE. Political impact with the help of Turkey. And economic and health with the help of European Union. What would happen? In this way, the weakness of Russian sphere of influence, which has created a Eurasian vacuum for India, would be filled. And that would enable India to assert itself. But this unfamiliar geopolitical terrain for India is there. Nobody can deny that. However, India has a major advantage. India has a large cultural relationship with these countries. When I went to Samarkand and was at the Baba's tomb, the people came to me, they said, well, Baba belonged to this country, but he was from India. So our too much of emphasis on anti-Mughal period has to be reduced. We have to appear as some people more considerate and people who can say, let bygones be bygones. If we can adopt that strategy and the three-pronged attack, UAE, Saudi Arabia on one side, Turkey on the other, and European Union on the third, we can sideline China and make an impact in Eurasia and thereby create an area of influence where our voice will be heard with respect and our area of influence will widen further. Are the Mandarins in the South Bloc listening? I hope so. Thank you.